Oh, yeah. Welcome into the Unanimous decision. Listen, stow your tray tables and get ready to take off. It was the first unanimous decision for this Dayton team. I think maybe George Washington too, but 94-79 on the road at St. Joseph's. The Dayton Flyers took care of business on the road for what it felt like the first road game the Dayton Flyers truly had in the bag from about the 15-minute mark in the second half. So a great job by the Dayton staff, by the Dayton players, by everybody involved in Philadelphia tonight to take that first punch, right? You were down 38-34 at halftime, and ultimately you come away with a 15-point win in Philadelphia. And this creates momentum on Friday versus VCU, a team that, they've picked up some momentum so far this season, but this does a whole bunch. This shows that this team, this group, can go on the road and win games. And that's what I've been looking for ever since the Richmond loss is like, how are you going to perform on the road? And tonight the Dayton Flyers win it 94-79 against the Dayton Flyers. Look, I'm Chris King. If you guys don't know, I do this. I'll say this. The number one visual podcast on Dayton Flyers Twitter. I'll say visual because I think I'm the only one. So number one for sure. And I obviously do this for the Cream City crossover. You see that on your screen. It is a media group that me and a couple guys started. We do radio for 97.3 The Game in Milwaukee. So we do Bucks postgame shows. But I was telling my guys, Trey Crosby and John Tyus, look, let's go ahead and get some Dayton Flyers postgame going because I'm a Dayton kid. I'm from Dayton, grew up in Centerville, went to Centerville High School, always went to Dayton games growing up. And, and I appreciate all the love and the support. You guys are watching. You guys are tuning in. That's all that matters, right? So enough about me. I'm Chris King. Once again, you're listening to the unanimous decision. The Dayton Flyers with a huge win tonight on the road. They improve to 19-3 on the season. Or is that 20-3? That might be 20-3. Let me pull that up. I think it's 20-3. Yeah, it's 20-3. So the Dayton Flyers, oh wait, no, they're 19-3. All right. Well, already losing credibility, right? No, I'm playing. But they improved to 9-1 in the Atlantic 10 Conference. Look, Richmond just lost. They lost to the VCU team that you're going to get on Friday. So it is a first-place tie. Obviously, Richmond gets that tiebreaker. But for now, since Richmond's only 8-1, we've got a half-game lead in first place for the Atlantic 10 race and the regular season conference championship. And, wow, what a win that was for the Dayton Flyers. The first half, it was bad. It was bad. And to be fair, right, when the other team, St. Joe's, is shooting 68% from three in their first couple of shot attempts, it's hard. It's hard. Trust me. We weren't getting out, though. We weren't closing out on shooters. We weren't playing good defense. And then the Dayton Flyers ultimately end up kicking it into gear in the second half. And I want to talk about what Javon Bennett was able to do to really claw back and then put the team in front, right? He had a 6-0 run himself, knocked down two big threes to cut it to one and then give the Dayton Flyers a 2-point lead. And then Nate Santos, big offensive rebound off of Deron Holmes miss. Look, he didn't have it tonight. We'll talk about that too in the Obi versus Deron. That's been a big debate. But yeah, it was just from then on, after that point when Javon Bennett turned this game around, it was all Dayton Flyers. So let's go ahead and get into this game recap. Dayton, once again, winners 94-79, the 18th ranked team in the country with a big win on the road. And you needed this one because you haven't really played all that well on the road so far. So you're 5-2 on the road so far. And this one was just a huge solidifying win to show that you can hang with anybody in any gym. And I'd like to know where I'd like to know where all the people that were giving St. Joe's the Atlantic 10 crown when they beat Princeton, when they beat Villanova, a team that's horrible in the Big East, a team that's not good, a Princeton team that hasn't played anybody, that's losing games to Cornell. I'd like to know where those people are at. Because the fact that you're going to go and tell them that they're the best team in the Atlantic 10 after a Dayton team who beat St. John's, who beat LSU, who beat Cincinnati. Yeah, they were saying I heard that noise. I heard that noise, and Dayton heard that noise as well. And I think Kobe Elvis heard that noise with that big three at the end when the shot clock was running down and the game clock was running down, and he shot a 3-point shot from the logo. So just a great win. Just spirits are so high. A beautiful second half. Beautiful. Let's get into the stats. The Dayton Flyers, led by Kobe Elvis and Nate Santos, We got a segment for Kobe Elvis, so we'll touch on him. But Nate Santos thought he did a really good job of letting the game come to him. I mean, taking great threes. He was wide open. Driving to the rim, getting fouled. Making his layups, cutting. This is a big part of this Dayton team and what they do. They're gritty. They're a gritty team. They're going to score at will if you force them to. If a team like St. Joe's forces them to score with them, we can do that. That's the biggest part of this win, I think, is that it shows that this Dayton team can score with anybody. Put up 80-some on St. John's. Put up 80-some on Cincinnati. So this isn't just a defensive-minded team and a slow-paced team. No, I can't get with that. This is a team who's going to beat you at your own tactics, which I love. Deron Holmes, fairly quiet night, 13 points, 2 assists, 3 rebounds. Turned it up a little bit in the second half. Didn't really have it all that much tonight, but it didn't matter. That's the best part about this Dayton team. It didn't matter, and it doesn't matter on some nights when you've got 5 out of 7 guys in double digits. Javon Bennett, 18 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. Very efficient night, too. Only missed 1 field goal. 2 for 2 from 3. Those 2 big threes in the second half, that was as big as any shot hit tonight. Those 2 threes. Quick trigger, open, deep, didn't matter with Javon. And he's figuring that out. I love it. Enoch Cheeks, 12.7 rebounds, 5 of 9 from the field. Slow start in the first half, didn't matter. 7 rebounds, that'll win you games. Your guards are out-rebounding bigs. Great stuff from Enoch Cheeks. And then Kobe Elvis, 21 points, 10 assists, the double-double machine. He can be if he's got it going like this. Tonight did a lot better with his shot selection, but we'll get into that. 9 points out of Kobe Bryant, 7 boards from him too. See, like they took the rebounds from Deron tonight. He didn't get near his average, but that's the good part about this team, right, guys? Like this is a team who's figuring each other out. This is a team who figures out how to step up when other guys aren't having it. It's the great part about this team. Isaac Jack, not a great night for Buffalo Jack, but the fact that we were able to recognize that he didn't have it and keep Deron out there, keep your best player out there, and just figure out how to defend the other bigs who were pretty good in the second half. Sandico was a dog in that first half, and then they threw the double at him. We'll talk about that when we talk about the second half. As far as St. Joseph's goes, this is a team who I thought was greatly overrated. This is a team that I thought if you could take their best player out of the game, then you can beat them. What happened tonight? 39-game streak of 10-plus points for Eric Reynolds. 7 points. 7 points. Huge. Huge job by Javon Bennett. Huge job by Enoch Cheeks. They knew the scouting report coming into this game. If you limit him, no matter what the first half said, I don't care. 38-34, you were down at half, whatever. Other guys were hitting shots. Cameron Brown had 19 points. That wasn't a guy that was on your scouting report to knock down 5 of 11 from 3, 7 of 13 from 3. And he had a hotter start in the first half than he did in the second half because you took away their best player, so you're making him beat you. And what does that do? You win by 15 points. Lynn Greer had 18, the former Dayton Flyer. I thought he was pretty efficient tonight. I thought Lynn Greer did a good job, but he's not some world beater that can go for 35 like Eric Reynolds can. And if you take out one of those two, you're going to have a real shot at winning a game versus a St. Joe's team like this. And they did a great job on Lynn Greer. Actually, Eric Reynolds had 6. Still, under 10. Exactly. Stow your trade tables. Trey Crosby III coming in, showing some love. The guru, the host of the Cream City crossover, Bucks post-game show. So love to see that he's tapped in with the Dayton Flyers. Probably get him on. He can be a guest for this Dayton team. So, obviously Deron Holmes didn't perform to his ability and his averages and what he does, but that didn't matter tonight. And I love to see it at this point in time because this is a huge momentum changer. You had games versus teams that you probably should have blown out. St. Louis, beat them by 5. St. Bonaventure, that could have been a double-digit win. Didn't happen. But now I think this will be the momentum changing victory for this Dayton team that'll have them playing their best ball when March comes. So I'm ecstatic. I'm so happy that this Dayton team was able to start slow, recognize what they needed to do, and then get into the second half and just beat some ass. They just whooped their ass. That's what I love. That's what I love to see. Second half, let's talk about some adjustments from Anthony Grant. So the first half, once again, we saw the 1-3-1 that a lot of Dayton fans haven't really been fond of so far in this season. They haven't really been fond of it. And to be quite honest, tonight, I don't know why you went to the 1-3-1, because they were knocking down threes. Like I said, they were 68% to start this game, something like 3 of 5, or maybe even more. So you went to a 1-3-1, and ultimately, I will say this, though, they started missing. They started missing threes. So it was like I didn't have that big of a problem with it, because they started missing when the pressure was on, and they didn't. Like they kind of left shooters alone, and they were missing. They came back to their average. They're like, this isn't a St. Joe's team that can keep up that scoring for a full 40 minutes. And if you do, look, this Dayton team can put up 94 points. Probably the best offensive output of this season so far. I mean, I just love what the Dayton Flyers were able to do in the second half. And I think what started the kind of drought for St. Joe's in the second half, and I talked about this on Twitter, but the double of Asandico, I mean, he didn't want any part of that. He didn't know how to back into anybody. He didn't know how to pass out of it, really. It's turning the ball over, couldn't get a shot off. And that was a guy who was not torching you, I wouldn't say, but he was finding open looks. But then when you put that second big guy on him, credit to Nate Santos, he played a really good game defensively. When you put that second big guy on him, it gets a little bit trickier. It gets a little bit trickier, and it showed that the Dayton Flyers made the right adjustment there. Offensively, Javon Bennett, I mean, he was, I believe he was 3 for 3 in the first half, but they were just layups, right? They were just drive by, blow by, knock down the layup, good stuff. But then when he gets that three-pointer going, when he's coming off screens, when he's working around the perimeter, when he has the ball in his hands, taking screens and just chucking it up, I don't hate those shots, man. I will say as a fan, and I think a lot of people can agree with this, I don't hate those shots. When they're leaving him open, I trust him. I know he hasn't necessarily been the best three-point percentage shooter statistics-wise, but for some reason, man, I'm just comfortable when Javon Bennett is feeling it. And tonight, by no means did he force them either. I mean, those were great shots. A little deep, but those were great shots. And I just really love what Javon Bennett was able to do, because it sparked a run. It sparked that 20, well, I don't even know what it was. It was like 29-3 or something. Some crazy run in the beginning of this second half. I read a stat on Twitter that said the Dayton Flyers put up 89 points in 35 minutes. That's unheard of. That's unheard of. But it's a team that's capable. It's a team that's capable of it. That's the best part about this Dayton team, is that we can play to your style, but we can also play to our style a bit. So we got out in transition, threw some lobs, but we also just played efficient offense. Getting great looks on offense, penetrating, kicking it out, threes wide open. Guys knocking down threes. Shot 54.5% from the three-point line. This was a team at one point who was number 1 in the country, or top 5 in the country at three-point percentage. We've had some drop-offs, had some bad three-point showings, but I think this is what this Dayton team does, is they create open looks, and that's when you see a great three-point percentage. Not forced threes, no. None of them. I didn't think a lot of the threes tonight were forced at all. I thought they found open shooters. I thought they found open cutters. I thought they got to the rim when necessary. That second half was just, it was beautiful. It was beautiful ball. And I love to see that out of this Dayton team. I love to see it out of an Anthony Grant-led team, a guy who went into the transfer portal and grabbed guys who can fill voids. Nate Santos gives you 21. Last time I checked, he's filling in for an NBA player. Javon Bennett gets you 18 points. Last time I checked, he's filling in for Malachi Smith, an all-Atlantic 10 point guard. Kobe Elvis, he decided to show up tonight. That was nice, 21 and 10. Dropping dimes. Not really forcing it at all. Taking the right shots. Now, you had a couple in transition where it's like, Kobe, all right, come on now. But when the rest of the guys have it going, it is efficient and it is great. And then how about Enoch Cheeks? There were plenty of times. Look, he got 7 rebounds tonight. He tied with Kobe Brea for rebounds. And I'll say probably 3 of those rebounds were St. Joe's would come down with the ball, and Enoch is just sneaking in and tipping it out of their hands. That's what you love to see from a team that is ranked 18th in the country. That's what you love to see from a team that has high expectations, that is expected to make the tournament. But it's just huge that they're able to do this within 1 year, really 8-9 months of putting this thing together, and guys coming in and going to a Spain trip and just trying to mesh it together, trying to get it all together. And it all starts with Deron Holmes. It all starts with Deron Holmes, even though he didn't have it tonight, but it all starts with a guy you can go to because he's ultimately freeing up space for the rest of the guys to eat. And they did that tonight. 5 out of 7 players in double figures. It would have been 6 had Kobe Brea just scored 1 more point. I mean, this is the ceiling. This is the ceiling for this Dayton team. Now, at the end, I will say, sloppy basketball. Sloppy basketball. Like, we did a great job with their press at first, and then it just got bad. But when you go on that big of a run, when you build that big of a lead, a 19-point lead, I think it got to, the margin for error is a little bit bigger. Margin for error is a little bit bigger. So I thought, ultimately, to wrap up my thoughts on the second half, Javon Bennett, what a job by him. For not only was he defending Eric Reynolds well, but he was scoring. He was utilizing that jumper. That everybody talks about this. Look, this isn't something new. Like, we know Javon can shoot the ball because Anthony Grant and Brooks Hall and guys that are involved with the team directly are saying, hey, he might be one of the best shooters in America. They see that stuff in practice, guys. This isn't some anomaly where Javon Bennett is just only shooting well one time this season. No, he's had games where he's feeling it. LaSalle, Oakland, tonight. So I thought he started it, but also when you go back to that first half, Anthony Finkley, what are we doing? I mean, oh man, that was dirty. That was dirty. The flagrant 2 on Anthony Finkley. I think that lit a spark in this Dayton team. Now, I think they were coming back regardless. Like, obviously, this Dayton team is head and shoulders above this overrated St. Joe's team that everybody thought would beat you. I mean, Dayton fans, we knew we would beat them. But the national media, Rob Doster, he picked them as the Atlantic 10 winner. So I think Dayton also felt a little disrespected tonight. And that's the good part. That's what you want to have, that mentality going into a game versus a team that they thought was better than you. By no means was that St. Joe's team better than you at all. There's a stat that also said Dayton is 14-0 when they score 70 points. 15-0 now. 15-0. I like it when this Dayton team has it going offensively. Let's check out some of the comments on X, I guess we'll say. Connor Clark says, what do you say? Dayton, okay, so the concept, he has a podcast too. Would also love to join a stream. Hey, come on now. We can join a stream for sure. I'm definitely down. Want to get a ton of guests on. Connor Clark says Dayton proved tonight that this isn't Deron Holmes and his team. This is a team, period, not a group of individuals. I wholeheartedly agree with that. This is a team. This is a team that thrives off of each other. And they thrive off of each other, and they love each other. That's the best part about it. These guys have each other's backs. These guys can really play. They can really hoop. And somebody's going to figure out that they can hoop in the wrong way in March. A team is going to be hurting when they figure out that this isn't just Deron Holmes, because you're going to throw doubles at Deron Holmes and you're going to see what he can do. He can facilitate from the post. He can free up space for cutters. He can defend at an All-American level. So this is a team. This is a team. This is not just some. I've seen this floating around on Twitter when people are making the Obi versus Duran comparisons and how the 2020 team was such a better supporting cast. Well, tonight it didn't look like that. Tonight it looked like this was a supporting cast that could beat anybody in the country. I just want you guys to just really let that resonate. Like, this is a team that is deep in terms of scoring the basketball. They're not deep in terms of personnel, but a team that somebody can give you 15 plus on any given night, 20 plus. We'll say 20 plus. This is a team that has each other's backs. This is a team that shares the basketball. This is a team that's unselfish. And look at really what Enoch Cheeks has been able to do as a catalyst of this whole thing. He was a 15 points per game scorer at Robert Morris. He comes in and he plays his role and he plays it to his best ability. Just a great showing from this Dayton squad. I love it. It was great. UD Flyer 83. Elvis, Nate, and Cheeks had big contributions tonight. Oh, 100%. I mean, Nate Santos is at his best when he lets the game come to him. He did it all in Charleston. This isn't some new thing, right? This is what Nate Santos can give you. I would like to see it at a more consistent level, but this is what he can give you on any given night. If Deron Holmes doesn't have it going, look at the four-man. Look at the transfer from Pitt. Give him his shot attempts. It's great to see Elvis. Great to see Elvis getting it going. And like I said, Enoch Cheeks just buying in. Not caring about scoring, but making plays. He'll make a ton of money in Europe or wherever he plays overseas. But what's so great about this, and I'll say this to kind of end this second half thing, and this is more of a broad opinion, but what's so great about this shows us is everybody's coming back except for Deron Holmes. Everybody's coming back. They all have senior year eligibility. They all have junior year eligibility in Javon Bennett and Malachi Smith. We get him back. We get everybody back. We just need to fill the void of a Deron Holmes, which is not something to take lightly. And maybe you don't want to try to go get that out of high school. Maybe you go into the portal and go find an answer. But it makes you so happy as a Dayton fan to realize that your team is great around your superstar. And the transfer portal now, at this level, we can find somebody who can fill that void. Maybe not to the All-American caliber, but a guy who can come in and still have this team a top 25 team. A guy who can still have this team as an at-large candidate. Look, we're not going to lose any chemistry outside of Deron being gone. But there will be plenty of options in the transfer portal. We'll get to that. But for now, I want you guys to just soak in this moment with me and realize that this is a great team. And I would have liked to show this against Richmond, but obviously weren't able to pull that one out. But I think if we get them in the Atlantic 10 tournament on a neutral court in Brooklyn with our fans there, different story. With Kobe Elvis showing up. And let's talk about what Mr. 24, the Canadian, was able to do. Brampton, Ontario. We'll put some respect on his city because, look, when you get the best from Kobe Elvis, you can beat anybody. You can beat anybody in the country, to be honest. Because when you look at the losses, Kobe Elvis didn't have great nights. Northwestern didn't make a shot. Houston didn't make a shot. Richmond 3 of 9. But he responded tonight. He was the player that we know he can be. He was the player that we saw versus Cincinnati put up 27, 14 of 14 from the free throw line. He was the player that Anthony Grant chose over Lynn Greer III. Outscored him, outdished him, 10 assists, a double-double, and outplayed him, really. And look, we saw the technical foul, right? On Kobe Elvis, we saw it. Razor Blazer says 60 points in the second half at Philly. Never thought I'd see the day. Look, and they did a great job of recognizing what worked. They look, the second half, they were playing team basketball, and that's exactly what this Dayton Flyers team has to do. Obviously, the shots probably won't go in at that rate, but against a team that allows you to score with them, look, we can do it with anybody. Rick Schultz should have done this versus Richmond. Good to see the quick turnaround ramp up within a week. Exactly, and I think a big part of that is Kobe Elvis having it going. He was more conservative with the shots he took. He knocked down his open threes. That's not always the thing he does. He sometimes he's wide open and he just misses. But tonight he knocked him down. 3 of 5 from 3, 60%. 8 of 13. Got to the rim. Had a couple mistakes that we've seen throughout the year, but 10 assists will make up for that. He in transition, pulled a 3. Maybe you don't shoot that one. In transition, threw a lob to Duran when you had a 4-point lead at that time. But that's besides the point. He outplayed Lynn Greer. And I want to say this. That technical foul that he got, when he's backing down Lynn Greer, and Lynn Greer, by the way, flop merchant, flop artist, my goodness. Man up, dude. Man up. I promise you're not going to be remembered for scoring 18 points against Dayton when you lost by 15, when you're 0-3 against Dayton. How about you try to win a game first and stop worrying about the calls? But when Kobe Elvis gets that technical foul, when he stands over Lynn Greer, that's a statement. By the way, I thought it was a soft technical. NBA, they probably don't call that. You can say it. And maybe the refs didn't know that they were teammates, and they're not supposed to. But I thought that even carried some momentum. That early on in the game, I'm not going to fault him for it. I thought it was great. Because Lynn Greer earlier in the first half had been jawing at Javon Bennett. He doesn't know Javon Bennett from a can of paint. They never chose Javon Bennett over Lynn Greer. Lynn Greer was here 2 years ago. Javon Bennett just got here this summer. So it's great to see, like Connor Clark said, they have an identity now. They are a team. They are a team. They have each other's backs. And Kobe Elvis let Lynn Greer know, hey, this isn't, just because you're at St. Joe's now and you get higher usage doesn't mean you can come play with my boy, my teammate. And I thought it was a great job by Kobe Elvis to get that technical. I didn't care. Because I knew this Dayton team is resilient. They were down at halftime versus St. Bonaventure. They were down at halftime versus St. John's. They were down at halftime versus St. Louis. I knew that this team, there was no lead after they already threw the first punch. There was no lead that I wasn't comfortable with in that first half. They could have been up 7. They could have been up 10. And I was comfortable with this Dayton team winning this game. I didn't think that St. Joe's had the offensive consistency that they could keep up with this Dayton team. In no way did I think that. So I thought it was a great job by Kobe Elvis. Yeah, you cut the lead down to 2. They get a free throw. They only made one of them, too, by the way. Eric Reynolds went 1 of 2 from the line. And you make a statement. And that's what Kobe Elvis did. So I thought that was one of the bigger things that he did. And that's outside of scoring 21 points. And that's outside of scoring or of having 10 assists. So I thought I saw a lot of great stuff from this Dayton team tonight. And it started with Kobe Elvis. He did a good job. Tracy Cupp, got to talk about the announcers being so sad at the end. Yeah, that's what this Dayton team did tonight. It went from, oh my God, we've got a potential upset. We've got this potential court storming, because St. Joe's would be the type of team to do that. Those kids were gone. They were on a different planet. But It went from that. It went from St. Joe's has a chance to upset this Dayton team to holy shit, look at the score, and Dayton is up by 19 points. That is what wins you basketball games. That's what's going to win you tournaments. That's going to win you championships, Atlantic 10 regular season, Atlantic 10 tournament stuff. That is great stuff. With no fans. And okay, we had some fans. I heard you guys. We have fans in the building. But it was a gritty effort tonight. But not only gritty, just overpowering effort tonight. Just too good. And that's what this Dayton team has to be, especially when we've worried about a team that dropped a game on the road, dropped 2 games on the road, dropped 2 tight ones. You have to leave no doubt. And tonight they realize what they can do on the road. And that's the great part about this, because you've got another game, a rivalry game versus a VCU team that is kind of picking up some steam. Just beat the brakes off of Fordham. A VCU team that beat Richmond. Who beat you? So we're at a great point right now in the season. And if you can go 2-0 in this week, you're going to be looking at a top 15 team in the country and a team that knows how to win on the road now, so that regardless of what happens, they'll be ready for March. They'll be ready for neutral courts. A team that's 2-1 on neutral courts too, by the way. So it was great. It was a great win. Great win tonight. So moving forward, before we get into this Obi and Duran debate, and I don't really like, necessarily debating those two, but I just think tonight kind of solidified that my opinion is a correct opinion. But yeah, moving forward for this Dayton team, you got VCU, and then you got 2 home games versus Duquesne and Fordham. But I wanted to just touch on the road games that this Dayton team is going to have to play. So you've got you got 4 road games left. 4 road games left. You're 4-1 in the Atlantic 10. I think that's right. Let me see. I think you're 4-1 on the road this season in the Atlantic 10. Yes, you are. You're 4-1 in the Atlantic 10. 4 road games left versus VCU, George Mason, a gym that we don't shoot well in, and Loyola Chicago and St. Louis, sorry. So this is a great momentum builder, because St. Joe's I wouldn't necessarily call it the best environment in the Atlantic 10, but it is one of those top ones where you can have a bad night. We've seen it. We saw it all the time with Archie's teams. Go into Hagen and lose. But that's not what this Dayton team just did. That's not what they did. And ultimately they outperformed expectations. A team that was favored only by 1.5, 2, they win by 15. So yeah, just a great showing, and hopefully this carries some momentum. If you can get out of this week 2-0, I will have no problem with the last 3 away games. I will have all the confidence in the world that you can win those away games. So it'll be good. Razor Blazer says, hope we get to see Jayon Simon and Marvell Allen next season. Yeah. I mean, that would be huge, right? I mean, getting those guys, obviously you'll have great point guard depth. You have your guys to go to, and you have the guys that they'll be freshmen. So Marvell Allen will get to learn under some great players. You will have Marvell Allen getting to develop. And this guy was a top 150 recruit, or top 100 maybe, before he had his injury in high school. So this isn't I don't think this is a scrub. I think they're doing the right thing if he decides to stay. So next season could be big. And then Jayon Simon, obviously that's just some more depth at the forward spot, depending on how Petrus didn't get in the game tonight. And I think that his showing versus St. Bonaventure was a big reason why. But those are guys who can get in the weight room. Those are guys who can stay in the off season and stay in the gym, stay working. And guys that can really provide the blueprint for the next 4 years after next year. So, I mean, just looking down the road, there's a lot to be happy about and a lot to be impressed with when it comes to Dayton basketball. And I think a deep run in March will only make your odds better because you will have guys that will want to come to Dayton and recognize what they've done with some forwards that have gotten to the NBA. So I'm super excited, man. And I think tonight, I was already excited. I'll say this because I'm an optimistic guy and an optimistic Flyer fan. I'm not really one to get down deep in the trenches unless you're not making the NCAA tournament. And obviously, that's not really a problem for Dayton this year. And I just want us to be so set up for success in the future of Dayton basketball because, look, I say this all the time. If you get in that field of 68, anybody can win it. Who knows? Dayton could win a national championship because of what they're able to do now. And that's the biggest part of why I'm a Dayton fan. And not only that, not only because I'm grown up here, but I want this to be our legacy. I want for my adulthood now, 21 years old, I want for my adulthood to be full of success. And I think these are the right steps in a good direction to kind of create prolonged success. Is just getting out there, being a top 25 consistently team, being a team that can cause noise in March. And it starts here. And also starts with all the guys that Anthony Grant's putting in the NBA. So I love that. But it's great. It's great. I think we're set up for a big future. Gabe Hutton says, yo, easy Flyer dub. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. 19-3 on the year, baby. That's huge. Huge stuff. 9-1 in the Atlantic 10. Just exceeding expectations. Just doing a great job so far this year. I love it. I love it. Let's take to Twitter before we move into this Obi versus Duran debate. A lot of comments now, and people. Obviously, the away games are going to get a little bit more. A little bit more kind of attention and stuff because people are, they're looking for it and they kind of want to see what I have to say. I guess I'll say that. So nothing really else. Let me see. All right, perfect. We're good. So we can get into this Obi versus Duran debate. Okay. Tonight Duran Holmes 13 points. Didn't really have it going in the first half. Had 1 rebound, 6 points. And I'll say this, man. They're two different players, so it's hard to kind of make that comparison. It is really hard to make that comparison. But, man, I just want to say that I'm probably taking Obi Toppin. I just remember what Obi Toppin was able to put out offensively consistently every night, and there was no answer. There was nobody in the Atlantic 10, even though there were big names: Osun Osuni, Marco Santos Silva, Hassan French. There were big names in the Atlantic 10. And Obi Toppin said either too little or too slow. That was a guy who was a matchup nightmare for anybody. Like, I think tonight, if Obi Toppin is on this Dayton team tonight, they win by 30 points and he has 25 plus. He was so tough to guard. I love Duran. Don't get me wrong. I love that kid. I love what he brings to UD. I love that he loves UD. I love that he stayed for a third year and created this real successful season. But I'm gonna take Obi. I'm gonna take Obi, the National Player of the Year. I'm gonna take him. I'm gonna take Obi. Let me know if you guys disagree. I want to hear your arguments, but I just think that obviously they're different players in the sense that Duran is taller, he's lankier, and he can play a little bit better defense. But in the Atlantic 10, Obi Toppin was a good defender. In the Atlantic 10, Obi Toppin didn't get held under 10 points ever. In the Atlantic 10, Obi Toppin versus 7-footers and versus guys that were huge enforcers like a Sandico was tonight and guys like Neil Quinn who were huge. What's Obi Toppin doing? Let me know. Obi Toppin, what's he doing? Pump fake, drive, dunk that mug. Obi Toppin was and I hear the arguments about maybe a better supporting cast and this and that. But let's not act like Obi Toppin didn't take over games with that supporting cast that is supposedly so much better than this one that we have tonight, that basically I wouldn't say carried Duran to a win, but provided that depth and provided that scoring without Duran tonight. Obi Toppin versus Georgia, what do you have? 14 out of the team's 17 to start? Put that game away right away. Was the best player on the floor with Anthony Edwards there, with Tumani Kamara there, with Jalen Crutcher there, with Ibi Watson there, with Trey Landers there. He was the best player on the floor every single night. I said this earlier. The only time he maybe got outplayed was versus Kansas, and he had 18 points. He had 18 points that night, and Udoka Azubuike had 29. But, I honestly don't even think that was part of his work. I thought Jordy Shimanga was the one guarding him, and he was the one getting in foul trouble, forcing Obi to guard him. Nobody could guard Obi Toppin. This was a player who was generational. This is a player who had your team top 5 in the country. This was a team who beat Richmond on the road. This is a team a player who went 18-0 in the Atlantic 10. I know I get a little animated about it. I'm sorry. But, man, and what's most unfortunate is that, yeah, 2020, they would have probably went to the tournament and turned some heads and got in the second, third round, whatever. Maybe a national championship. That ceiling is not that high this year, and I think that's because Obi Toppin was just a matchup nightmare for anybody. It didn't matter if he didn't show up, because if he didn't show up, he was still scoring 15 points. And I also want to touch on, at least for me, as an analytical person sometimes, I recognize that stats can kind of get a little out of hand and stuff like that. But, I mean, when you have a guy who's damn near 69% from the field, yeah, he ate – Razor Blazer said he ate Grant Golden's lunch every time. Exactly. Tracy Cup, hate the debate. So silly, but have to go Obi. Hate saying it. Yeah, but yeah, to your guys' points, and I hate this debate too. I don't like it. I think they're two different players, completely different players, and I love them both. I wish they both played at the same time. That would be so nasty. Imagine Obi Toppin at the power forward and Duran Holmes at center. Oh, my God. That is a disgusting team. But anyway, I don't like to get into the analytics a lot, right? But Obi Toppin damn near shot 70% from the field. An efficient 70%. Like, he wasn't taking 20 shots a game. Now, maybe you credit some of the pick and rolls and some of the lobs and stuff like that, but that was a guy who man, he scored at will every time, every game. And he still shot 40% from 3, which is around what Duran's doing. I think Duran's a little bit worse now at this point with a couple of poor showings from 3, but still. Obi Toppin, I believe he just elevated this Dayton team offensively a lot more, but to each his own. I hate making this. I hate this debate because you have Duran's parents on Twitter. You have guys from the 2020 team on Twitter. You got guys that obviously would probably take their guy over the other. But what's so special, and I saw this too, they're great people and they're great players, and in the sense that they both love Dayton, and I love that to have generational talents that will continue to come back to UD. Obi Toppin did in the TBT. Duran Holmes loves Dayton so much, he'll be back. I know it. So, it is a tough debate to have, but I'll take Obi. But how fortunate are we to even have that debate, though, right? Like, how fortunate are we to discuss who is the better big and who is a better player? It is so great, and I just hope that we're able to kind of continue that debate with future talents to come. And I think you've got to do it in the transfer portal this year because high school guys may not, provide that right away, but we're going to need a big presence inside and a guy who's athletic and can score and can shoot the 3. We're going to need that in the transfer portal because I just don't think Isaac Jack is at that point in his career to become that. And I don't think this late, I don't think we can find that in high school. So I think, but I will say Anthony Grant did find Obi Toppin late because he picked up the Dayton job late. So you never know, but we're going to have to find an answer there. But that's down the line. Let's just enjoy this. Let's enjoy a 94-79 victory over the St. Joseph's Hawks. Eddie Slott says Dayton good. Yeah, Real good showing tonight. I love what I saw from the Dayton Flyers. Once again, this is Chris King from the Cream City Crossover and the Unanimous Decision, the Dayton Flyers postgame show. We do this every night from now on. I love talking ball with you guys, and throughout the offseason, I'm going to have some shows. Like, I'm not going to just stop this thing. Like, this will be something we go to consistently because I'm so tapped in and because I know exactly what this Dayton Flyers team can do in the offseason to kind of get people's hopes up, right? Like, in the offseason this year, you had a ton of transactions, guys transferring in, and Obi Toppin. I mean, geez, look at me already. Deron Holmes coming back and stuff like that. So like this will be good. This will be a good thing to get going, and glad to have you guys joining me and tuning in. And then we'll have some guests. We'll have some guests coming on here soon. I think we got Dukes lined up. We've got Cole Adams, a big YouTuber from the Dayton area as well. He's going to get on here soon. Connor Clark asked to get on, so I'm open to anybody coming on. This is just basically me talking to you guys for right now, but we'll figure something out for that. If you guys haven't already, just go to the Cream City Crossover YouTube and just drop a subscribe. We're going to be on live after the Milwaukee Bucks game tonight against the Phoenix Suns. So yeah, you guys can see my NBA knowledge. It's a lot more lax because I'm not the host. But yeah, let's go ahead and look around the Atlantic 10 and NCAA basketball, and then we'll get out of here. We'll get out of here pretty quickly. So what I already saw off the bat, they were tight at halftime, but VCU beat Fordham tonight. VCU won 75-60, so this is a VCU team who's going to have some momentum coming into Friday. This is a team that has a player that you were trying to recruit aggressively, Michael Bell. This is a team that's hungry for a victory against a Dayton, even though it is a new staff, even though it is new players, they're going to be hungry. So we've got to show that same showing that we did tonight. I thought we did a great job tonight going on the road and getting a good dub. So yeah, let's talk about Rhode Island beating George Washington. George Washington, man, they had it figured out for a little bit. They were shooting the ball well. They were getting their ball to the scorers, James Bishop and Darren Buchanan, and now they've just struggled. They've struggled, man. So, and once we get closer to the Atlantic 10 tournament, we'll start talking about seeding, but it's just too premature to be doing all that right now. But Dayton's certainly in line for a double bye, so that's always great. And hopefully we can break the curse. NCAA, we'll talk about the top 25. Baylor ahead of Dayton. They're 13th ranked in the country. They're going to get a win versus Texas Tech, up 76-68 with a minute to go. San Diego State going to hold on versus Air Force most likely. They're up 15. South Carolina, 15th ranked team in the country, barely pulling one out against Ole Miss. So that's a team that'll probably stay locked in if they continue winning. Houston, 16-point win over Oklahoma State. Look, Houston, man, I wish we could have that game back because I think we could show a better performance, especially if you have all guys scoring like this and Kobe Elvis getting into 20 points. Clemson, big upset versus North Carolina. They were a big underdog, and ultimately I think North Carolina coming off the hangover win versus Duke, I think that probably played a factor into why they lost. Oklahoma, big win over BYU, 82-66. That might jump them back into the rankings. They've kind of been inconsistent this year. Their strength of schedule wasn't very good in the non-conference, so that allowed them to be top 25, but they dropped a couple ones in the Big 12 that they probably shouldn't have, and they get it back tonight. They'll probably be back in the rankings after beating BYU. UConn 9-point win over Butler. Kentucky, wow. This Kentucky team is very interesting. They're 17th ranked, so they'll probably stay ranked ahead of Dayton if they continue their success. But they won by 32 versus Vanderbilt, so that's something to keep an eye on. New Mexico going into Wyoming, winning 91-73. And then Nevada with the big upset win versus Utah State. Look, Utah State they might be one of the most overrated teams in college basketball. They're god-awful. And I don't know why they played a horrible non-conference and they've hovered around in the top 15, top 25. But get them out. My goodness, Nevada just crushed them at home. Utah State was at home. They lose by 14. How bad was Lynn Greer? Eddie Slott said, man, I was just glad to get the win. I was not too fond of the fact that Lynn Greer was talking mess to Javon Bennett, a guy who he's never probably met, a guy who they didn't choose over Lynn Greer, a guy who just got here this summer and Lynn Greer was gone 2 years ago. Lindgren should probably be worried more about having a better record than against Dayton than 0-3. A Lindgren kid who scores it well from the mid-range but would provide nothing for this Dayton team because he can't shoot the three ball. I don't even think we made a mid-range shot tonight, so it didn't matter. So a guy who rightfully so transferred out and, scoring the basketball a little bit this year and in the past year, but not a guy who can help a top 25 team. Not a guy who can help a Dayton Flyers team that is way better off without him. And a guy who got outplayed by Kobe Elvis, the guy who you probably chose over him. So, happy we were able to kind of prove him. We just prove ourselves right, man. We don't feed into that. We don't feed into that story. We knocked him out of the A10 tournament last year. It'll probably be the same thing if we face him again. So I'm just glad this Dayton Flyers team got the win. Big shout out to the Cream City Crossover Media Group. We'll have Dayton post games for the rest of the season, but also Milwaukee Bucks post games. We're getting to the trade deadline, so if you guys do follow the NBA and you want to check out some content, then definitely tune in. I'll have it for you guys. And me and Trey Crosby III and John Tyus, those two guys are great at what they do. Tonight I'll be kind of laid back and just talk about some of the Bucks game. I know it's already started, probably an hour in, so I'll be missing some of it. But yeah, so you guys want to hear me talk NBA basketball, then go ahead and go to the YouTube and subscribe. Cream City Crossover, CCC Buck Show on all social medias. Go ahead, click that follow button, whatever. Show some support. And then just let me know what I can fix. Let me know how I can be better. Let me know if you guys want some guests on. And I appreciate you guys tuning in. It's been fun. Once again, the Dayton Flyers win it 94-79 over the St. Joseph's Hawks. This has been a Cream City Media Group production. Unanimous decision. Dayton going crazy. 9-1 in the Atlantic 10. 19-3. Let's go hit that 20-win mark on Friday versus VCU on the road. Maybe we'll get Dukes in here to get some revenge on that old guy who was talking about bending us over and stuff. But yeah, maybe we'll do that. Because I have no problem with us winning at home. I want to get this win on the road on Friday. So, once again, I'm Chris King. I appreciate you guys tuning in. It's been fun. And hopefully you guys watch the replays, share with all your Dayton friends and family and whatever you guys do. I appreciate it. This has been a Cream City Media Group production. I'm Chris King. Stay royal, baby.